À-bas-le-ciel.
I have gotten a couple questions on, one, the medication that I'm on, and two, because we are considering having another baby, would I stay on that medication during my pregnancy or would I get off of it? I'm on Prozac and I am breastfeeding being on it. That was something that I I debated, I went back and forth, but it came down to I need to feel the best that I can for my kids, and Jude nurses, and for me personally, I felt okay given what I'd read, what I've reviewed online, like researched. I felt okay, I felt all right with him nursing with me being on Prozac.
You know, I didn't think anything was wrong with me. I just thought I was a bitch, and lazy, right? But this was different. I felt incredibly sad. The only thing I can compare it to is, I don't know if I should say this, but coming off of a certain drug, a certain recreational drug that I took when I was much younger, and coming down from that was intense. Like, I felt like, wow, I'm never going to be happy again. And that's what this was like. I just felt like I'm never going to be happy again. My relationship with my partner is ruined, and I regretted having my child.
The second half of that is, will I get off of the medication before I have another baby? So if I get pregnant again or before? And my answer to that is most likely no.
À-bas-le-ciel.
The truth is that in 2018, the truth doesn't count for much. The truth doesn't matter, people. What matters in the year 2018 is being on brand and on message. You mark my words. So in the epic clash between Ellen Fisher, full-time Hawaiian fruit-based mom, and Unnatural vegan, professional skeptic, internet science chick, and now stay-at-home mom. What matters isn't who's right and who's wrong. What matters is who's speaking on brand and who's speaking on message. So when Unnatural Vegan comes out with a claim like, oh, it's just not possible to be getting enough protein from whole wheat pasta in a cashew and butternut sauce. It's just not possible. She didn't take the time to go to Chronometer and put the numbers and figure out how many grams of protein were in the fruit smoothie and in the pasta. No. Doesn't matter. What she represents, her brand and her message, is what matters. What matters is that she represents the type of person who would look up scientific, peer-reviewed articles and present you with facts and research, even though she doesn't actually do this herself. I can't remember the last time she actually did research or challenged her own assumptions or beliefs on anything since she proved to all of us that artificial sweeteners and coffee are an excusable vice compared to alcohol, cocaine, or what anyone else gets away with. And you know what? The sad part is that Swayze, a natural vegan, is out here trying to prove to you that Ellen Fisher is raising brain-damaged babies, when Unnatural Vegan herself is proudly defending her right to party, by which I mean get high on SSRI, antidepressant drugs, despite the very real evidence that they're not just bad for her health, they're also bad for the health of her baby. Look at this right here. Prenatal SSRI exposure alters neonatal corticosteroid binding globulin, infant cortisol levels, and emerging HPA function. I don't really know what that means. You, most likely watching this video, do not really know what that means. Imagine if you were donating money for some kind of highly scientifically literate YouTuber to read and evaluate this peer-reviewed study and then report to you the conclusions on brand and on message. Let's just blow through here. Background, methodology, results, conclusions. Here we go. I'm basically a caveman, people. I read this out of complete ignorance. This is not my area of expertise. Conclusions. Prenatal SSRI exposure affects the developing HPA system by altering serum CBG levels in neonates and infant salivary cortisol levels. Further research is warranted on the long-term functional implications of the effect of prenatal SSRI exposure on fetal hepatic CBG gene expression and the developing HPA system. You know what that means? Do you know what that means? I don't. Nope, I don't. I've got a whole stack of peer-reviewed studies here that tell me that pregnant mothers taking antidepressants is a really bad idea. And you know what? I think a lot of these studies quite intentionally state their conclusions in a manner that will avoid terrifying the general public because they don't want the public to be terrified. Let's take a look at a couple more here that are not at all written in layman's terms. Oh, this looks legit, no? So you see, the title, this is the thing I love about these types of articles. The title is long enough that it's like you've read a whole book just in reading of the title. It's great. Exposure to selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors during pregnancy and risk of autism spectrum disorder in children. A systematic review and meta-analysis of observational studies. Now imagine what a different world we'd be living in if the title said, taking antidepressants during pregnancy increases the risk of your baby having autism. Imagine if that were the title. You can even just read the fine print here on screen for the abstract, and you can figure out that is what this article is telling you. Is it true? I don't know. Not really my field of expertise. But I don't think Swayze, I don't think Unnatural Vegan, I don't think she's an expert on nutrition. I don't think she's an expert on exercise. I don't think she's even an expert. I don't think she's been to culinary college. I think she's an expert on how to cook, And I don't think she had any expertise when she rolled up her sleeves and decided to prove to us that Splenda and NutraSweet, that artificial sweeteners weren't so bad for us after all. I don't think she had any expertise when she boldly decided to prove to us that genetically modified crops could be a healthy addition to her diet. Why doesn't she take this on? It's not just her health that's on the line. It's actually the health of her unborn child. And most likely, based on what she said in her videos, the health of the child she's already got, the health of the child she gave birth to recently. Preterm birth and antidepressant medication use during pregnancy. A systematic review and meta-analysis. Oh, now look down there. Look at what's highlighted in yellow in the results. Do you know how to interpret an odds ratio of 1.96? Do you know what that means? It's not good. It's not good. So I don't even know. Is this Chiari 1 or Chiari E? I presume this is Chiari and the Roman numeral. This is not my field. This is not what I study. Not an area I'm interested in anyway. This is a malformation within the skull. And if you look through here, the odds ratio is a bit mommering. It's a bit impressive to read through this. But of course, the conclusions here are that more research is necessary. We can all agree to that, can't we? Oh, but here, you see, this is the real problem with the world in 2018, people. What you and I rely on is not directly examining peer-reviewed, high-end medical research like this. We rely on people like Unnatural Vegan, Swayze, to dumb it down and interpret it for us. We rely on people to digest and re-present these findings, just like Time Magazine used to do. Time Magazine, headline, taking antidepressants during pregnancy may lead to fetal brain changes. Well, you know what? That sounds a lot like those peer-reviewed articles I was just looking at, but kind of dumbed down and put into layman's terms. There's a growing and confusing group of studies looking at the effect of antidepressants during pregnancy. Some research suggests that the drugs are linked to an increased risk of miscarriage, while others focus on the implications for the developing baby, including possible birth defects and an increased risk of autism. Okay, that's April 9th, 2018. Does that sound like the sort of thing that might interest Unnatural Vegan scientific skeptic supermom? Or do you think she's more interested in heaping scorn on, what the hell was her original, Mango Island Mama and her alternative lifestyle in Hawaii, feeding, what was it, buckwheat juice and whole wheat pasta to her kids? Barley, okay, thank you, barley milk or some carb.
And rice pasta. Brown rice pasta.
You've got to have a sense of perspective here, people. You've got to recognize what are big problems in this life and what are the problems that you merely happen to be standing close to. And Unnatural Vegan, this is the same woman who took time out of her day to make excuses for Kal-El and tell us how we should all support Kal-El, even though she buys leather shoes and eats meat, who takes her time out of her day to tell us what losers and extremists vegans are, if they're just real vegans, how we should all be more reducitarian and affable and, how we should make ethical compromises.
If you're interested in taking antidepressants during pregnancy, or if you're a little bit worried about taking antidepressants during pregnancy, please keep watching. During my first pregnancy, I had been taking Zoloft 100 milligrams beforehand for anxiety and depression, and I took it through the entire pregnancy, not knowing anything about it. I was 21 and I was young, and I didn't really know anything about medicine or whatever. It was before I became a nurse. And I had a healthy baby. I had no pregnancy complications whatsoever. When I had my second child, I thought, okay, I'm going to do this right. I'm going to wean myself off of my Zoloft ahead of time. For my second pregnancy, I was like, I'm going to wean myself off of my Zoloft with the help of my doctor, of course. And so I did that. And then 2 months after I was completely off the Zoloft, I got pregnant. And I had horrible antepartum depression and anxiety. It was horrible. And antepartum means during the pregnancy. So my doctor started me back on my Zoloft slowly, 50 milligrams, and then 100 milligrams, and eventually up to 150 milligrams. I know that some doctors want you to wean off of it in the third trimester. My situation was a little bit different. I was so depressed and anxious that we talked about it, and we decided that it was better to stay on it, but the benefits outweighed the risks.
I feel comfortable being on it if I get pregnant again, simply because of the research I've done. I know people personally that have been on antidepressants. That's something that I feel like I'm going to trust God with, that if I'm going to get pregnant and this is where I'm at in life right now, I'm going to do the best that I can on my part to stay mentally healthy, emotionally healthy, spiritually and physically healthy. So looking forward and knowing that we plan to continue to add to our family means that I need to make an informed decision on what's best for me, what's best for the care and well-being of my children, my marriage, and just the functioning of my house. And if that means being on a medication because I need help with my serotonin levels, then that's what it means. And I'm gonna just pray and do everything that I can for that baby's health and trust that God's got that baby in the palm of his hand.
Antidepressants and pregnancy. Continued evidence of harm, still no evidence of benefit. Now, this is a real interesting study to take a look at, and you can tell this is published in a different kind of journal, Ethical Human Psychology and Psychiatry. So this is a little bit easier for people like you and I to interpret, dear viewer. And this is taking a different type of approach to the issue and saying, look, it's not just the case that we need to take seriously the threats to the mother's health, the impacts on the baby's health. We have to view this in the context of the fact that the science indicates that the benefit from taking antidepressants is either very, very little or absolutely nil. So looking at the same evidence from a different angle in that context. Maternal use, I'm not running out of sources. I'm actually not using all the sources I've got in this video because, I don't know, that'd be boring. Maternal use of selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors, fetal growth, and risk of adverse birth outcomes. Yeah, 2012. SSRIs, just like cannabis and tobacco, negatively affected the growth of fetal head circumference. Does that sound like something you'd want to play with? There were other articles dealing with SSRIs, even in their impact through breastfeeding. Is this something you want to make excuses for, Swayze? Because you have. You've come on and you've said the most laughable, shameful, debunked, pseudoscientific garbage that comes straight out of psychiatric advertising campaigns, not science. You're still out here promoting the idea that SSRI drugs cure a chemical imbalance in the brain. That's what you're doing. And guess what? The impacts on your health and the health of your unborn child are proven to be terrible. And this is what you founded your channel doing, right? You were supposed to be waking us all up, shaking us all out of our slumber, shaking us out of our, our doldrums and saying, hey, wake up, vegans. You're all wrong about artificial sweetener. You're all wrong about, genetically modified corn. You should eat this stuff. It's no problem. And yet, once we're dealing with something that maybe cuts a little bit closer to the bone, that maybe cuts against your own personal convenience, ideology, ego, all of a sudden, I think your gusto is gone. Your interest in peer-reviewed scientific sources has just disappeared. Exposure to SSRI antidepressants in utero causes birth defects, neonatal withdrawal symptoms, and brain damage. What a headline. Pregnant mothers should avoid taking SSRI antidepressants. They're hazardous to the developing fetus, cause withdrawal symptoms in the newborn baby, and induce biochemical and morphological abnormalities in the brain. Here's Peter Breggin breaking it down for you. This is not, I think, from a peer-reviewed journal. This is someone who devoted his life to this area of research, trying to simplify these things and say it to you in plain language. I'll have some of this information appear on screen. I don't think it's going to help anyone for me to read it out. And I mean, maybe that's the most depressing part of being on the internet of all. All this research, all of it's out there. And most of it, it's not just that brilliant minds have gone into conducting the research in the first place and publishing them in peer-reviewed journals. There are also brilliant minds that have put a lot of hard work into popularizing these findings. People like Dr. Irving Kirsch, who have gone on the road and given lectures and toured and really explained to the world on mainstream television and here on YouTube and in lectures in university halls and so on and so forth, who've really broken it down and said, look, here's the hard science, here's the research, here are the statistics, but here's what it means. Here's the decision you have to make. And the decision you have to make is quit taking antidepressants. Unnatural vegan, Swayze, stop lying to yourself, stop lying to the viewing public, stop poisoning your unborn child. Stop making the same kind of excuses that you came here on the internet in the first place to stand up and oppose. It's pseudoscience, baby, and it's killing you, even if it feels good every time you take that pill.
À-bas-le-ciel.